Alrighty, so I am jumping a little bit ahead on this one, mainly because I had some time and thought I'd record. So this is the Robert. What if Robert Baratheon refused to marry? And this one, what happened was, one of the other writers, we had a bit of a problem. He was writing, and he was like, and I was like, the characters don't seem like the characters. This doesn't make sense. What is going on here? And we kind of had a bit of an emergency where I was like, all right, this first bit is salvageable, but there's some things that do not make sense. In the initial outline, it was John and Maya get married, and I'm like, that doesn't work at all. That doesn't work. And I went, you also don't really have Robert's more, shall we say, gross characteristics on display. Which, if Robert Baratheon didn't marry, he would become like Aegon the Unworthy. Lords would just prostitute their daughters to him like mad. And honestly, it's really, 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 really gross. And Robert would just basically drench the realm into chaos. Even if he doesn't legitimize his bastards, just the fact that he has no legitimate heirs creates a lot of problems, and he would create his own problems as well. So let's kind of keep going.
What if Robert Baratheon never married? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Jon Arryn chews his lip, trying to figure out a way to secure the future of the realm. He had suggested a match between the new king and Cersei Lannister in hopes of gaining Tywin as an ally, but rather than jumping at the chance, Robert seems to be stewing and dragging his heels. Finally, Jon decides to go to the new king and see what he can do to convince him of the right course.
Your Grace, I'm sorry to intrude, but we do need to talk about the royal marriage. It's important that you have a strong match to start rebuilding the kingdoms. Pull up a chair, Jon. I've been thinking, and have come to a decision. So you will accept the match.
Robert looks into the fire as he takes another sip. What if he didn't want to get married? What if he could simply have all the women he wanted? He wouldn't have to worry about offending anyone. He could just become like Aegon IV. Maybe that would help him escape the ghost of Lyanna that hung over him.
Speak truthfully to me, Jon. Do I have to get married? Technically speaking, no. If you have a bastard, you could legitimize them, and they would be your heir. But I must warn you. Good. That settles things. I have a bastard already in the Vale. You remember Maya, don't you? Came from an encounter I had with a common girl. Bessie. No, Becca. Thank the gods for that woman. Black hair, big beautiful eyes you could get lost in. Not to mention, big fat tits you could bury your face in. Robert, this is a drastic action. You are going to create massive problems for yourself by doing this. The Lord of the Realm will not like it. Lord Tywin will be insulted and likely not support you. And we need his money to rebuild King's Landing after the sack. No, we don't. I'll just go to the Iron Bank. I didn't gain the throne by playing their stupid Game of Thrones. I'm going to rule how I want. And if I'm not married, I can have whatever woman I want and not have to worry. It will be like Aegon IV, with lords throwing their daughters at me.
John's mouth drops open. This was far worse than he could have ever imagined. Robert was actually considering a course of action that would lead to another civil war down the line.
Robert, don't do this. This is madness. The realm cannot take that kind of instability. What instability? I'm not going to legitimize all of them. Just Maya, since she's my firstborn. I treat her exactly as I would any trueborn child. Besides, it'll give me an excuse to keep a promise I made to Ned. Our houses should have been joined with Lyanna and me. We'll do it with his son and my daughter. You really intend on doing this? Very well. I'll make the preparations. But Robert, good. It's settled. The girl shall be legitimized and married to Ned and Cat's boy. This is a terrible idea. A dragon for your thoughts, Jon. Seems like you're not too happy. Robert, what you're planning on doing with Maya and simply playing the role of a whoremongering king is asking for instability. Even if these bastards aren't legitimized, lords and ladies will use them. No, they won't. If they have a problem, Ned and I can smash them like we did the Mad King. And after you both are dead, what then? That's someone else's problem. Besides, the next generation can deal with that when they get to it. No more marriage proposals. It's clearly not for me. But if they want to fling their maiden daughters at me, have at it. Write a letter to Ned. We'll tell him I'll be visiting him. As you wish, Your Grace. Gods save us.
Frustrated.
Yeah. So this whole situation here is Robert is deciding to do something really stupid, and Jon is trying to talk him out of it. And this is kind of the type of humor where I like, where it's just like the wild guy goes up, starts talking against the straight man, and the straight man's like, dude, no, this is a bad idea. That's very much the case there. And yeah, Robert would kind of, like, even married to Cersei, he has a lot of kids. Way more than Aegon the Unworthy. Like, Aegon the Unworthy kind of just makes a lot of illegitimate kids with a few mistresses on the side of his wife. he doesn't bang like Robert does. Admittedly, there's kind of that rumor that Aegon the Unworthy screwed his first mistress and her daughter at the same time. And the implication is that he screwed his own daughter because Danelle lost and gave birth a little bit after she was sent away from King's Landing after she seduced the boy. So, kind of like, yeah, he would be worse. And with this was kind of the first major change where I'm like, Rob and Maya are a better match than Rob and John because Rob at least brings the a great house in. Now the question was, well, how does succession work? It's like, well, it's very simple. It happens like it happened with Rhaenyra. Firstborn son inherits the Iron Throne. Secondborn son inherits Winterfell. Simple. And the main thing about that was the problem in the original script I had to fix was the John has nothing. Like, what possible value could John have? This doesn't make sense. Especially if she's the heir to the Iron Throne. If she is not the heir to the Iron Throne, it would make sense. But if they don't, it just doesn't make sense. And it's very frustrating. And so I decided to like, okay, let's keep this opening, and the little bit after it that works. Everything else is like, nope, that doesn't work. And Maya's not a warrior. She is actually just wouldn't have a hammer. That doesn't make sense. So that was kind of the original thing. And so just after that, I was like, I can't work with it. This is unworkable. We can't do this.
By the king's mad decision, Jon sets cool the parchment and scratches out the letter with his usual careful hand. By dawn the next day, Robert Baratheon rides out of the capital with a small retinue. Winterfell rises before them at last, grey and solemn against the cold sky. Ned waits at the gate with his family gathered close. Robert leaps from his horse and sweeps Ned up in a bear hug. For his part, Jon Arryn steps down from his carriage, his movements stiff from the long ride. He offers Ned a silent, respectful bow when Robert sets his friend down. Ned returns it with equal gravity.
Ned, it's good to see you. Robert, I'm surprised you don't have a queen. I'm sorry if it didn't work out. Don't be. I couldn't be happier. Cat, always a pleasure to see you. And little Rob, by the second. He has his mother's eyes. It's good to see you again, Ned. I trust you are well. Well enough. Peace is a rare gift these days. I'm glad the three of us can get together. You and me need to head to the crypts. I will pay my respects.
The descent into the chilly, torch-lit dark beneath Winterfell. The air grows still, heavy with stone and memory. Robert walks ahead of them, each step weighing more than the last. When he reaches Lyanna's cold statue carved in cold granite, a crown of winter roses at her feet. Robert lays a hand upon the stone cheek, then presses his forehead to it before weeping silently. His tears drip onto the crown of winter roses at her feet.
Why did the gods see it fit to take you away so soon? You were so young, so full of life, the perfect flower in the swamp of the world, and now there's only dust and cold stone to keep you company. Ned, why would you put her here of all places? She was a daughter of Winterfell. This is where she belongs. She belonged where the sun can be in her face, the wind in her hair, the place where she can ride free. She belonged with me.
Ned doesn't correct him. For all he knew, maybe Lyanna might have been.
Yeah, so with this one, it's just kind of a reiteration of the scene from the first book in the show. And I was like, yeah, let's just do that. Kind of fits the sentiment. And it would kind of be super fresh because this would be the first time that he's seeing it. And now we kind of are about to get the bombshell where Ned finally sees what his friend is going to be doing in this particular timeline.
The thing Robert needed to become the king he needed to be, but it was pointless to dwell on such things now that the ink was set. Nothing can change the past. Lyanna was never coming back.
What's this about, Robert? You're the only true brother I've ever had, Ned. It fate gone as it should have. We'd have been bound by blood, but it's not too late. I'm legitimizing my stone and naming her my heir. You have a son, I have a daughter. We'll join our houses. Nice and simple.
Ned isn't sure how to react at first. Part of him cannot deny he is thrilled at the prospect, but the surprise. Then Robert grins at him.
Come on, Ned. The boy needs to be wed sometime. What better than to my girl? I want to keep the promise I made to you when I was betrothed to Lyanna. What do you say? But what's if you marry? Oh, I'm not getting married. I intend to enjoy every single pot of honey the Seven Kingdoms has to offer. I just won't legitimize anybody but Maya. Robert, are you mad? That's not a stable base for rule. The realm is at peace, Ned. A good time will be had by all. Don't worry. If I don't legitimize my bastards, we won't have another Blackfire rebellion situation.
Ned rubs his eyes, but Robert was Robert. He was going to do what he wanted, and it appeared as though becoming a second Aegon the Unworthy was what he wanted. Despite his misgivings about Robert's course, he agrees to the betrothal. When Kat hears the betrothal, she's ecstatic, and it's decided that Rob will go south to King's Landing when he's old enough as Robert's ward to get to know his betrothed. When Robert arrives and declares that he will not be marrying at all, and declares Maya as his heir, the realm starts to murmur. Some support the notion, such as several Vale Lords, Hoster Tully, and even the Martells, since he's rebuked Tywin. But the others grumble. Tywin and Mace had both hoped that Robert might wed one of their cousins in case of the Fat Flower, or Cersei in the Old Lions. This does offer an opportunity, however. Rather than marrying Cersei off to Robert, he decides to simply offer her to the new king as a mistress. Perhaps that would convince him to marry her. Cersei balks at being made into little more than a whore, but Tywin wants to make sure that he has someone with the king's blood in his family. When Cersei is presented to Robert as a possible mistress, Robert accepts the proposal. However, after a few weeks together, Robert finds that Cersei is poor company and not to his liking in the bedroom. So with small apologies, he sends her away with a bastard in her belly. Tywin is pleased and quickly marries Cersei to Edmure Tully.
Yeah, so this one, it's like, yeah, this is kind of the first steps of Aegon the Unworthy. Functionally, what happened with Aegon is that the Lords of the Realm just threw their daughters, and Robert would be worse because Robert would just kind of like have almost like a harem, and the whole landscape of the Seven Kingdoms would basically turn the turn the Red Keep into functionally a brothel where Robert could sample any woman he wanted. And Tywin would definitely want to whore out his daughter because Tywin is an awful human being. And then he would just be like, all right, next best thing, Edmure Tully. Since Edmure is roughly about the same age and would actually probably get along with her and worship the ground that she walked on because he's a good person and he would be like, oh my gosh, she's so hot. Anyway, and then we kind of get a little sweet thing. It could have expanded upon, but I decided, probably not.
Barely notices that she's pregnant when they're wed. When the babe comes out with black hair, Edmure is somewhat bemused, but after Cersei explains the circumstances, her new husband simply hugs her and promises to raise the child as his own. Warmth and affection from Edmure makes Cersei feel strangely safe, and she promises to give the future Lord of Riverrun sons of his own. However, Edmure's response gives her pause.
Cersei, I'm happy with you and little Joffrey. If you are willing to give me more children, I won't deny you, but I just want you to know that I want to keep you and your child safe and well provided for. I don't want you to feel like anything other than my wife.
Cersei preens and starts nuzzling at his neck. Edmure understands the signal and helps her undress. Soon, another babe is born. This one a girl with a mix of red and gold hair named Joanna. Robert's court rapidly fills with ladies from across the Seven Kingdoms, especially Dornish and Reachwomen vying for his favor. Robert finds himself enjoying all this attention, especially since they adopt more and more daring and revealing dresses regardless of how highborn they are. On one trip to the Stormlands, he stops by Greenstone to meet with his cousin Elisa Eastermont to give his condolences.
Mercy, it's been a while. I'm sorry about your husband and father. According to Stannis, they both died bravely during the siege at Storm's End.
Thank you, Your Grace. Would you come and stay for a while? I've missed you. It's been a long time since we used to spend time together as children.
Of course, Cersei. And you can still call me Robert. I still remember your father was a good man, and I wish that this was under better circumstances.
I know. You were always good to me. So you're the king now, and everyone in the Seven Kingdoms wants you.
Aye, it's quite enjoyable, but I do need someone who'll be around for a while. Would you be all right coming to King's Landing with me?
Robert, I'm flattered. You really mean that?
I just need someone to be a mother for Maya, as well as a partner for me. I know I have needs and all that, but I just want someone I know I can trust.
Isella smiles and puts her arm around Robert, letting him hold her. Then she starts to giggle as he whispers into her ear and guides her to the nearest bedroom. When Robert returns, he introduces Maya to Isella, who scoops up the little girl and holds her tight. Isella becomes Robert's primary mistress, and she has a pair of twins within the year. Rapidly, the realm starts to fill with black-haired bastards.
Yeah, so with this one, it's I had to make up a name for Robert's Esteban cousin since Cersei doesn't think about her name ever, but she tells a story that he comforted her, and since they were friends, and her dad was good to him, so then they boned, and he would trust her because they're cousins. And he brings her there. And it's just a lot of people were like, I don't know if Robert would bang his cousin. It's just like, he did bang his cousin. But it talks about it in book 4. When you get right down to it, Robert Baratheon is a gross man. And this is actually kind of toning down some of his grossness because in the books he has sex with 14, 15-year-olds, probably because he's trying to remind himself of Lyanna and he's stuck in Arrested Development. And this would cause a lot of problems.
Men throw their daughters at him. Isella carefully filters out the better ones to introduce to Robert, happy with her position as the king's confidant and primary mistress. Seeing the possibilities for an opening down the line, Varys travels to Pentos to speak with Illyrio.
So, I assume that the Targaryens are dead, and Robert is king. Yes, and it's going to be better than we could have hoped. Why so giddy? Because the idiot has decided to play the role of Aegon the Unworthy, and not get married. Instead, he tumbles every single woman in the Seven Kingdoms who wants to get into his bed. It's quite hilarious how easy this is going to be. You're not serious. Really? That's the best news we could have hoped for. The realm is going to be filled with bastards wanting to claim the Iron Throne. Once he dies, there'll be anarchy, even if he legitimizes one of them as heir. Indeed, it will also create a great deal of openings to exploit. There will be a number of people in Reach, Riverlands, and Westlands, especially that will dislike their daughters being rejected outright or simply discarded once Robert gets bored. Do you think Lord Tywin will be a good catalyst for chaos? Oh, he already is. His daughter does have one of the king's bastards, and such a boy will be valuable in terms of creating chaos. Good. I'll continue my search for the Targaryen children. It would be better to simply hold them captive under the guise of guests. Why? I have an idea of how to build an alliance. What if we were to foster a friendship between our young Aegon and his Joffrey Tully, especially if Lord Tywin could be removed and his grandson made Lord of Casterly Rock? You think you could do that? I would have thought Tywin would be a great source of chaos. Yes, but if we could get the Western forces on the side of Aegon, we could be able to face the might of Highgarden and others, especially if young Joffrey can be primed by Lord Connington into a military student. Eliminate Tywin, and I'll send Aegon to be fostered to the Rock with Connington as his protector.
Thus, agreed. Varys sails back to King's Landing and
so
starts
this is kind of like this creates the conflict for the rest of the theory, where they're like, all right, if he's going to do something stupid like this, we're going to take advantage of it. And so with this bit, we see the bit getting into the conflict where our antagonists are going to be Joffrey and Aegon, because this is a political story, first and foremost. And since it's short, we can just kind of like get that resolved, and then and go from there.
Bred descent among the prouder lords. Often he has his agents whisper in the ears that the king had taken their daughters and discarded them after his pleasures with them. What use was a bastard when there was an heir, even if she was a bastard herself? Slowly, more and more unrest begins to spread across the Seven Kingdoms. Only fear of Robert's prowess as a warrior keeps him in line. Varys slips into the rock via a careful disguise, then quickly sets to work using his knowledge of Tywin's time as hand to predict his patterns. Soon after entering, he decides on which of the rock's prostitutes was Tywin's preferred bedmate and sells her a bottle of poisoned wine to give to the old lion. Within a few days, Tywin is dead, poisoned by the Tear Lease. Among Tywin's effects is a will that Varys forged himself and placed in the vault, disinheriting Tyrion into naming Joffrey Tully as heir. The young boy is brought back to the rock, and when he does, he finds his uncle waiting for him along with the boy with silver hair.
This is Griff. He was brought here by one Magister Illyrio, saying he would like to give you some company.
Joffrey thanks his uncle and offers his hand to the other boy, who takes it with a grin. The boys quickly become close as brothers. Griff even remarking that when he gets older, he will marry Joffrey's sister, Joanna, which the dark-haired boy agrees to. Both are trained by John Connington under the guise of old Griff in military matters. Joffrey quickly picking up the older man's strategies and tactics. Sensing weakness now that Tywin is dead, Balon Greyjoy attempts to rebel, but the Greyjoy rebellion is quickly put down. After Pike is seized and the Iron Islands subdued, Robert feels the pull of war more strongly, and with no official family to take care of, Robert declares his intention of going to the Stepstones to take them for the Iron Throne.
Robert, why are you doing this? Because I'm a warrior, John. I've got a thirst for blood and carnage. This is going to cost a great deal of money, and nobody's been able to successfully hold the Stepstones for more than a few years. Yeah? So, this time it will be different. Why? Because I'm doing it. Oh, God, preserve the realm.
With Robert's planned war on the Stepstones.
Yeah, so it's very much Robert is basically just going to glut himself on blood and flesh. And now that we have the bits where Joffrey, his sins are starting to come to fruition, where Joffrey is being raised with young Griff, rebellion's brewing. It was a bit of a drop plot where we could have had a bunch of things where a bunch of different bastards just rise up and say, hey, we're the king, but I didn't have the time or space to do that. I had to get this done very, very quickly. I think I finished this up over the course of a couple days, I think it was. And so I just was like, all right, we're going to do this. We got to get this thing done. We got to get a very simple conflict setup. Boom, let's do it. And so from there, we're just going to eventually transfer into the problem.
The Iron Fleet is requisitioned for the crown as a punishment for the rebellion, and the Redwood Fleet rounds Dorne. Within a few months, the Stepstones are conquered, and Robert appoints Stannis as lord of the Stepstones and grants him control of the Iron Fleet to patrol the Stepstones. Under Stannis' command, the fleet soon controls the Narrow Sea. Gold and other goods flow safely to Westeros, and more docking fees are taken, increasing the crown's coffers. However, for all of Robert's profits, more and more have been funneled out to pay for the war and the various other debts he's incurring. Jon Arryn tries to get Robert in control, but Robert simply continues spending money as fast as it's made. As Maya grows up with a few of the half-siblings that Robert had given leave to stay in the Red Keep, she's bemused at the constant rotation of women that her father enjoys. Estella keeps the girl away from the worst of things, and Tamaya grows to see the older woman as her mother. Once Rob is old enough, Ned sends him to the capital to get to know his betrothed. When he gets there, the boy is amazed at the number of attractive women in the court, even some not so attractive in several cases. All of them are dressed only a touch more decently than the average prostitute, likely to try and catch the king's eye. Not knowing where to look, Rob just looks at the ceiling. Seeing how uncomfortable he is, Maya walks up to him and escorts him to the throne room, where her father is waiting.
You get used to it after a while. Honestly, we're lucky that they or their fathers still parade around stark naked.
You must be Maya. I'm relieved that someone is dressed decently around here.
I'm from the Vale, where folk dress decently. So, Rob, you good at riding?
I am. We should go out riding sometime. Maybe explore the Kingswood. I've heard all the stories about the Kingswood Brotherhood, and I'd love to see their old haunts.
When Rob enters the throne room, Robert comes down from the Iron Throne. The king is still large, but he's developed a slight gut from drinking. He's lost none of his strength, though, since he feels his ribs creaking when Robert gives him a bear hug.
Welcome to King's Landing, Rob. I see that you've met Maya. Yes, I have. I think we're going to be good friends, Your Grace. Excellent. Don't mind the host of women prancing around. I don't think I'll have all of them, so a few will likely leave. John, why don't you take care of Rob and Maya?
Dutifully, Jon Arryn brings Rob and Maya to the Tower of the Hand. The elderly hand starts rubbing his temples. When Jon Arryn looks up, his anxiety is clear to see.
That man will be the death of me. I thought he'd stop after a decade and a half, but it just keeps getting worse. This is like Aegon the Unworthy all over again. Well, isn't Maya the only legitimized one of the king's children? At this point, each of the noble houses has a dark-haired bastard in their households. The Lannisters has the second oldest, though Edmund Tully has claimed the boy as his own. Nobody's fooled, though. So we're looking at a possible chaotic situation akin to the Blackfire Rebellions. This would be worse. At least the Blackfire Rebellions were simply the lesser houses rising up against the greater ones. This would be a kingdom against kingdom. Each great house with one of the king's bastards laying claim to the Iron Throne. So they'll try to usurp Maya. They very well might. I've tried my best to keep Robert's prodigious appetites at bay, but have failed. However, I have been putting some plans into place that could start securing Maya as the heir. I'm going to need your help, Rob.
Me and Grandpa John have been thinking about making a royal progress across the Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, so with this, it was kind of a very much a drop plot. I was thinking like, okay, we can get some chaos, but I didn't have the time to do it. So I had to really simplify matters to one other bastard. And I had to put it in like, yeah, we know it's Robert. Nobody's fooled. We kind of just go along with it. And I like the idea of Maya calling Jon Arryn Grandpa John. And what we have is John just being like, oh, my life is horrible. I hate this. Where he's just tearing his hair out constantly. And he's just saying, I thought he would get over this after a decade and a half, but he's just getting worse. And so, yeah.
Come with us. Show the realm that the North supports me in my claim. What do you think?
I'll be happy to, Maya. When do we plan on leaving?
A couple of months, I think. We need to tell my father and Aunt Essie about it, and send out the ravens to let the lords know we're
Over
coming.
the next couple of months, Rob and Maya work with John Arryn to get a feel for the chaotic state of the capital. Nobody has a firm grasp on every part of the realm, but someone has their finger on the wheel of government. Mace Tyrell was the master of coin since he had given his sisters and cousins to Robert on a couple of occasions, on top of being extremely rich himself. Stannis holds the position of master of ships, though he is in the Stepstones managing things there, and Renly is master of laws and commander of the City Watch. Rob can only attempt to make sense of the confusing mess of the government. It seems as though everything was either built on Robert's favoritism or his family, or whatever could bring him the best ladies. My father would hate this. How could he have gotten this bad? Yes, he would. I can't say I like it either. I strongly counsel Robert not to do this, but he seems intent on becoming another Aegon unworthy. But Wes, at least Aegon had a wife to have a true-born son with. Every lord in the Seven Kingdoms wants his daughter or niece or cousin to be queen, but Robert just devours them in their turn. Estella is somewhat stable, but she's not a queen. Honestly, it would have been simpler if he had just married her. Why didn't he? Robert wants to drown himself in women and food now that he can't fight, and he wants variety of courses from both dishes. He often talks about the rebellion with fondness, even though terrible things were happening across the realm. Robert was able to indulge himself in his hunger for blood, flesh, and wine. Now that blood is off the table, he can only save himself from the latter two. Rob's aghast at what John Arryn is saying. This wasn't a king, this was a despot, and worse, a neglectful despot. However, there was nothing he could do except to try his best to help Maya. If she was to be queen, he had to support her. Thankfully, she seems to be a solid girl, practical and level-headed. They begin with the Crownlands and move to the Riverlands, accompanied by some retainers in Renly, since John knows his gift for working with people. During the progress, they visit each of the various lords, interacting with Maya's half-siblings along the way. Some are friendly with her, but others seem resentful, especially the ones from noble houses. As he's visiting from the Westerlands, Joffrey Tully in particular looks at her with scorn, making various veiled insults that nearly results in a fight between him and Rob. Maya just shrugs it off and makes a rude gesture at the boy.
I may stink of mules, but mules don't smell as bad as rotten fish.
Joffrey grimaces, but the damage is done. Everyone besides his mother chuckles at the princess's comment. Cersei's fists tighten on her skirts, unable to say anything. Griff doesn't make any comment, but he stands next to his friend and puts a hand on his shoulder, not wanting to continue this. John Arryn quickly has the royal pair depart to River Run for the Eyrie.
Yeah, but this one it would very much be a little bit of a conflict between these two. I think that it would be interesting to have that conflict between two of Robert's bastards. And I think that the remark about the rotten fish would actually be very amusing. I think other things about it was they would be trying to do a royal progress to try and solidify her claim that can lead to some conflict with Joffrey. I actually put in the friendship with young Griff after this and just retroactively put it in because I was like, okay, that I need to set this up a little bit earlier. I think that would actually tie the conflict together a little bit better, and so that's why there's a little bit of a drop plot. But that's all part of the writing process. This one, I'm not as proud of it as some others, but I'm like, under the circumstances, I'm okay with what I put out.
Where they have a great deal more success. All of the Vale houses except Maya, and there are significantly fewer bastards there than in the Stormlands, since the Lords of the Vale were less likely to try prostituting their daughters to the king. After their reception at Riverrun, John has them bypass the Westerlands as to not encounter Lord Joffrey again. Stewing on his humiliation, Joffrey sits in his solar and ghastly rock, his friend Griff at his side.
How dare that bastard speak to me that way? Agreed. She may be legitimized, but that doesn't change the fact that she's the bastard daughter of some commoner. Thank you for standing with me, Griff. I appreciate that. You're a true friend, of course. And you're not just my friend, you're my brother, Joffrey. I wonder, once the whoremongering king is dead, perhaps we could overthrow the bastard girl, but who would be used to replace her? Joffrey, what if there was someone with a claim to the throne? A Targaryen prince? Viserys? He fled and has no allies, and there are no other princes. My grandfather killed the Targaryen children. What if one of them survived and is standing in front of you? Joffrey narrows his eyes at his friend, then leans forward. Aegon shifts uncomfortably, but Joffrey doesn't seem angry. He seems intrigued. You're not jesting with me? No, I wouldn't joke about this. I'm Aegon Targaryen, my benefactor, Illyrio Marpantis. He saved me from the sack, and now he's employed the Golden Company to retake the Seven Kingdoms. But I'd like someone like you to be my hand, if we're still friends. We're not friends, Aegon. We're brothers. Where would the Golden Company land? Our plan was to create chaos in the realm before we invaded.
Yeah, so this scene we kind of have the hypocrisy because he is the Lord of Casterly Rock. He is a bastard, and he's probably not aware of it. So that's what he does. So now we have the starting of the new conflict where it's going to be Joffrey against Maya, a similar way to Daemon Blackfire and Darren the Good. And we've got young Griff here saying, hey, you got a claimant here. You have to do it. And there's also the symmetry of we're not friends, we're brothers. And kind of illustrating that these two actually are people. They have a friendship. They're not just mustache twirling villains, and they're not psychopathic. So and Joffrey would, and I like the idea of kind of Joffrey having looking like Paul Atreides. I thought that would be interesting.
One way we can do that is by raising the Riverlands and the Westlands in rebellion against the king, possibly even bringing the Reach if you were to marry Mace Tyrell's daughter. She is one of the few girls the whoremonger king hasn't touched, likely because Mace would prefer to shield his daughter more than his sisters. I like this idea, Aegon. I do think we should remove some other obstacles. This Robb Stark seems like he's loyal to the bastard princess. I don't know if the Riverlands will fight with us, considering my aunt is married to Ned Stark, who is joined at the hip to Robert. The Westlands are yours for certain, and perhaps the Reach, but that one is a gamble. Maybe Dorne could be convinced. I am the nephew of the Princess of Dorne, but we should also consider who might be married to Ariana Martell, since I would still like to marry Joanna. That does create an issue. Well, perhaps Aegon took 2 wives. Perhaps you could as well. I don't know if that would play well. The succession would become rather murky. You're right. I don't fancy. I'm happy you have such a care for my sister Aegon. It speaks well for you. I'll start up talks with Mace Tyrell. I imagine that having his daughter wed to the richest family in Westeros will sway him. What if we could provide something to get Oberyn Martell's attention? Emery Locke or the Mountain? If there's a war, I'll need Sir Gregor. But Locke is not terribly useful, so I would not be opposed. Sir Gregor might be useful as a bargaining chip for the future. Thank you for supporting my claim, Joffrey. I do appreciate it. Honestly, I like the sound of Joffrey Kingmaker. You shall have the Iron Throne, my friend, and my sister will be your queen. Now that the plan is set, Joffrey sends a raven to Highgarden and prepares to depart himself. When the royal progress arrives in Storm's End, Edric Storm runs to meet Maya, grinning happily as she pulls him to a hug. All the Stormland houses are happy to see Maya, though their loyalties firmly rest with Renly. Robb and Maya both watch the tall Baratheon lord carefully observing how he chats with the various lords and treats them as friends while still maintaining his authority. They are surprised to find Joffrey and Griff already there.
And what's the Fish Lord doing here?
I'm simply visiting my future father-in-law, Your Grace. I must admit that I would prefer to bear the name Lannister, but the gods have a strange sense of humor.
You should try putting both on your sigil. It would be amusing, at least.
I don't particularly want to change my sigil for your amusement, Your Grace. However, maybe you should put a mule and a stag on yours. Before the argument can escalate, Jon and Renly quickly get the royal party away from the Lannisters. Renly is concerned about the possible alliance between the Tyrells and the Lannisters, since it could create a powerful enemy. Loras, do you know anything about the Fish Lion's plans? Only that she wishes an alliance and my father is entertaining it. I've tried to tell him it would be better for you to marry Marjorie, but sadly the Lord of Casterly Rock is a greater prize in my father's eyes. Well, at least I'm good enough for you. That's all I care about. I'll do what I can. But I think that my father is set on this match. If it comes to war, I'll act as your agent within the ranks and gather support. I love how your mind works, Loras. Keep me appraised of the situation. Once Joffrey.
Yeah, so with this one, with the bit in Highgarden, sorry if I'm not pausing too frequently. I can leave with this one to give some commentary. But with this, I wanted to just have some more conflict arise between them. And I thought that the discussion of the sigils would be really funny. And Joffrey saying, "No, I reject my Tully heritage. I'm a lion." Which, even though, so having the mocking the fact that she's a mule guide, I thought would be a logical thing that they would do. And then we also have Renly and Loras kind of illustrating, yeah, these two are lovers, they love each other, and they're buddies and they're political allies, and he's going to try his best. So
When Marjorie are married, Varys starts working on his own plan. The Golden Company is carefully moved to the disputed lands, along with several other sellsword companies, and then sets sail towards King's Landing. Their first docking is at Dragonstone under the guise of merchants. After infiltrating the castle, they slaughter the garrison and start funneling more ships in Blackwater Bay, using Dragonstone as a staging area. When the Raven arrives from Dragonstone alerting Varys that he's been taken, the Spider knows that this is the right time. Carefully, he selects a prostitute that he knows Robert will like and sends her to the king, along with a poisoned bottle of wine. Not wanting to leave anything to chance, Varys watches as Robert and the whore copulate, rolling his eyes at the drunken fool's debauchery. Varys waits for him to start swigging down the wine. A smile crosses his face as Robert puts it to his lips when he sees that the bottle is incorrect. You're not serious. There were 2 exact bottles in the whore's possession. Oh, maybe she's just mentally deficient. Whatever the case, he had a contingency. After hours of loud fornication, Robert finally goes to sleep, letting the whore sleep on top of him. Varys slips into the room and applies the poison to the bottle, then departs behind the hidden door. The next morning, the king's found dead, and the bells start to toll. Varys quickly sends word to Jon.
yeah, so Varys doesn't often get the chance to be like, wait, what, and deal with people's incompetence. And so I was like, oh, this is some possibilities where he says, are you kidding me? She got the wrong bottle. Is she mentally deficient? Shouldn't really? And so I wanted to illustrate that because I thought it would be very, very funny. So what we see here is just Mr. Varys getting flustered, which is not often that we see.
Offering Aegon. Then he puts up 2 lanterns in one of the Red Keep's windows. With the signal given, the Golden Company spread through the city, quickly cutting through the defenders and establishing control over the capital. Once the letter arrives, Joffrey immediately meets with Mace Tyrell and Randall Tarley. Aegon had already promised Tarley's aid, since the man is one of the Golden Company's friends in the Reach, but the fat flower must be swayed as well. Lord Tyrell, time is short and our window of opportunity is closing fast. A new power is rising, and its victory is at hand. I have with me the true heir of the Iron Throne, Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name. The whoremonger king is dead, and the capital is in the hands of the Golden Company. My army has already marched in support of Aegon. Will you join us?
Lord Tully, do you support this plan?
Our loyalties have always been to the dragons, my lord. I fought for them in the rebellion. I'd rather fight for them than a bastard girl from the Vale. It would be wise to join us, Lord Tully. Your daughter would have significant influence as my wife, seeing as Aegon means to make me as his hand, and you would be part of the great change in the Seven Kingdoms. Let us seize this chance to etch our names into the histories for all time.
You make a compelling argument, young lion. Very well. What do you need from me?
Joffrey grins and lays out his plan. At the moment, Maya and Robb are on the way to Dorne, so they could simply abduct the two before reaching the Boneway. Then the succession would be cleared. However, before the plan can be enacted, Loras rides out of Highgarden to warn the royal party. When the exhausted knight of flowers arrives at the camp, Renly quickly helps him down from his horse.
Loras, what is it? King Robert has been assassinated. The Targaryens have employed the Golden Company and are allied with Joffrey Tully.
Maya covers her mouth and starts crying while Robb puts his arm around her. John and Renly make everyone abandon camp and make a run for the Boneway. All the while they're dogged with Joffrey's rider.
Yeah, so with this one, with this part, it's very much a kind of a series of chopped together Lord of the Rings quotes, such as "A new power is rising, its victory is at hand. It would be wise to join us." I just thought, okay, let's do some interesting stuff. And here we wanted to illustrate the fact that the Tarleys are for the dragons, and then they're like, all right, I'll stand beside you, and especially since he would be like a staunch traditionalist, since from the start of the Targaryen rule, the Tarleys have actually been pretty ride or die for the loyalists. Every single conflict the Tarleys have been in, they were on the side of Aenys against the Vulture King. They were on Rhaenyra's side during the Dance of Dragons, and it's kind of interesting to see that. So,
including Sir Gregor. Finally, they reach Will Castle, and they're allowed into the castle ahead of the mountain and his men. Unable to storm the castle, Gregor simply retreats back to the beach.
So, Aegon Targaryen has returned from the dead, and he has the Westerlands and who reached his allies. This is most dire. We need to get to my brother on Bloodstone. Stannis has the ships to deal with the Redland fleet. We'll need to get to the north and Vale on our side. The Riverlands are likely going to sit this out, or side with Joffrey Tully. We'll go to Sunspear first, and flee our case to Dorne and the Red Viper. I imagine that a chance to kill Gregor Clegane would be most appealing to both of them.
When they arrive in Sunspear and lay out their case, Oberyn agrees to start harassing the Tyrells and to take Loras north to start gathering support for civil war in the Reach. Renly sails to Storm's End to rally his troops to march on Highgarden, while Jon, Robb, and Maya sail to Bloodstone. The Lord of the Narrow Sea welcomes his niece and Jon Arryn, then he gets down to business. I'm sorry that this burden has come to you, Maya, but it's time for you to be a queen. You cannot falter in this. You're going to have to fight for the Iron Throne and win it for yourself.
I won't, Uncle. I'm a Baratheon like my father before me. I will be queen in my own right.
Exactly what I wanted to hear. Robb, we're going to need your father's army, but it's going to take a while for them to come south. We're also going to have to deal with getting pinched between the Red Winds and whatever ships the Golden Company has. I'll fight beside you, Lord Stannis. If me and Maya to be king and queen, I'd best do what I can to earn it.
Stannis nods to the younger man and starts laying out their plans. Davos Seaworth will smuggle them north.
Yeah, this one we're into the final climax. We have Stannis in the south, and with the Iron Fleet, and he's going to be going up against the Red Wines. And I think that in this timeline, since he rebuffed Tywin, especially since they're up against Lannisters, the Dornish would side with them. Could have been better to simply have them go neutral, like they did with most of the War of the Five Kings. But I think that would be like, we got to kill the mountain. Tywin might be dead, but we got to kill the mountain.
One of the faster vessels while Stannis engages the Red Wind fleet with his own ships. Now that the plan is settled, the ships depart. Davos carefully evades any patrols near the mouth of Blackwater Bay and lets Jon Arryn off in the Vale before setting sail to the White Harbor, where Lord Manderly is waiting for them. Ned has already begun mustering his forces for war, and once they're ready, the northern host marches south toward the Riverlands. Knowing that they're likely to face opponents from the Stormlands, Joffrey and Aegon march towards Storm's End. However, as the Reachmen under the command make their way toward the castle, their advance is harassed by Dornish raiders along with a number of Reachmen gathered by Loras. Eventually, Joffrey and Aegon are able to face off against a host of Stormlanders led by Renly. However, the second trap is sprung when a host of Westermen emerge from hiding near a Tumbleton led by Jaime along with the Golden Company. After a brutal fight, Renly is forced to retreat back to Storm's End, though he does bloody his foe. While Renly retreats to Storm's End, Stannis and the Red Wine fleets battle across the Stepstones. Stannis' lighter vessels easily maneuver around the densely packed islands, burning enemy vessels in night raids and generally making life miserable for the Reachmen. Rather than simply stay in the Stepstones, Stannis sends a large set of his ships to start funneling Renly's troops north so they can set a trap in the Riverlands once Joffrey and Aegon commit to their war on the north. Joffrey and Aegon set a holding force around Storm's End to besiege it. Then they begin their advance north to face the Starks and Arryns. When they arrive at Barry near the meeting of the Three Forks of the Trident, they see an enemy army waiting for them, flying Baratheon Stag alongside the Stark Direwolf and Arryn Falcon. Joffrey grimaces and glances around the battlefield, carefully assessing their options. We have the advantage, but the Northmen are hardy warriors. As are the Knights of the Vale, it will be a fight to remember. It seems like this is our chance to fight on the Trident again, and we should ensure we don't make the same errors. There is no Robert Baratheon against us, but Ned Stark slew off Dane. Such an enemy is not to be trifled with. I want you in the midst of the Golden Company. If you fall, then our men will lose morale. So Jaime, I want you to stay near the prince and ensure no harm comes to him. Joffrey, I want to fight for my crown. I know, Aegon, but this is the critical juncture of this war. We've already defeated Renly, and Stannis will soon fall to the Red Wines. Once we deal with the Starks and Arryns, you will be king. Don't do anything stupid, jeopardize that. Fine, I won't do anything stupid. Joffrey nods and prepares his men for battle. Rather than forcing a crossing, Joffrey has his...
Yeah, so this bit here, we just have a sequence using the war, just try to have it play out logically. And now we just have a second battle of the Trident because I figured, okay, this is probably the most logical spot where the two armies were going to meet. and now we have Joffrey versus Rob in this battle. We also have / Maya. We also have an illustration of his relationship with Aegon. I definitely wanted to kind of just say, these two are buddies. They're ride or die for each other. They are going to fight to the death. Aegon's like, hey, I want to get in there. And Joffrey's like, no, we got to be smart about this kid. And so definitely want to have him be like fairly competent.
Crossbowmen start firing at the Starks and Arryns and places pikemen on the crossing to prevent the enemy from advancing. As he does, he hears a horn call from the east. Joffrey turns to see a second force of Northmen and Valemen that had crossed the river further east, hitting his rear with Maya and Robb at their head. Sighing, Joffrey starts giving out orders and sends the Golden Company elephants to meet the enemy cavalry. As he does, another horn call rises from the south as Stannis and Renly charge toward them with the full Stormland and Stepstone army. With this new force joining with the Loyalists, the Targaryen forces are bunched together, unable to maneuver. In the midst of the chaos, Joffrey and Robb lock eyes. Grinning, the dark-haired Lord of Casterly Rock rides toward his enemy.
Afternoon, cousin. I see that you're still fighting for your bastard betrothed. You're never going to insult Maya again, Joffrey. Mayhaps not. Let's see what you can do.
The two lads clash swords, their blades meeting and swinging apart as the men die around them. Robb quickly finds himself on the defensive. Joffrey's blade flicks out like lightning, the weapon clanging off Robb's armor. Abruptly, Joffrey misjudges his strike, and Robb seizes the advantage and tackles his foe. Both boys fall to the ground, mud fleeing up around Joffrey. For a moment, they grapple in the mud, but Robb pulls out his dagger and drives it into Joffrey's visor. The dark-haired boy spasms once, then goes still. Surrounded, and with their commander dead, the Westermen start to retreat. Several other Reachmen secretly loyal to Loras turn on the Golden Company and the Lannister men, sending the Targaryen host running. Aegon and Jaime are killed as they retreat, along with many other attempting to stand and fight. Now that the enemy is defeated, the triumphant Baratheon forces march to King's Landing and take it.
Yeah, so how this worked is I wanted to have a means of just having that conflict between these two resolve. Rob standing up for his girl, as he would, and Joffrey being a bit of a dick, and then it's kind of ends up in a grapple in the mud. So that's kind of the ending, and then we just kind of wrap it up.
Within the month, Maya is crowned Queen of the Seven Kingdoms and married to Robb. Varys manages to escape with the chaos, and Stannis and Renly send assassins after the spider to hunt him down. With the realm secure, Maya and Robb begin working to repair the damage done by the war, as well as build bridges between the various houses through marriage alliances. Jon is legitimized and wed to Arya Martell, while Edric is betrothed to Marjorie. Soon, the wounds of civil war are closed, with Queen Maya and King Robb firmly on the Iron Throne. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities.
Yeah, and that's the end. Just kind of quick wrap up, just saying, hey, these guys, people marry each other, we're kind of good. And overall, this was very much a quick job. I wrote the script in a very short amount of time. Wasn't a whole lot of refinement. I feel like a lot of the dialogue was good. I feel like there could have been a little bit better characterization, a little bit more focus on the fact that just Robert's bastards create a massive problem. And I was just like, that creates a problem. Anyway, that'll be all. We will call it good. Bye.
And we love exploring them. If you'd like to join us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms,